Now I'm going to start looking into nutrition habits. And these are the nutrition habits that we generally recommend for each client across the board. When clients are starting off with nutrition, the majority of the habits end up being very, very similar because nutrition foundations for each person are more similar than they are unalike. So if we can go through it in this particular format, we're going to find out which ones are going to be the lowest hanging fruit for your clients and which ones are going to be the most impactful as well. And that's one of the art forms of coaching versus the skill. So, for example, when you're working with body composition clients and some of them are starting to get quite lean, you'll see that some don't really respond to changes in calories, but if you improve their movement, their NEAT, or their cardio, they improve rapidly. So we start to find out what kind of actions really move the needle for some people. Some people thrive in higher protein. Some people thrive with higher plants. And using the food journal approach and then also these habits allows you to identify that. So the habits that we've picked allow us to create a sustainable lifestyle that really helps people essentially not need us anymore to get good results. Now, they're going to stay with us for a whole bunch of other reasons, but these are long-term habits that if someone sticks to are going to ensure that they have long-term health and a better chance of maintaining the body composition that they get with you. So these are the key habits to encourage. Protein at every meal. This is going to improve muscle protein synthesis, negate muscle protein breakdown. It's going to improve their immune system. It's going to improve their satiety. It's going to improve blood sugar regulation. The list goes on and on and on and on. We're looking at between 30 to 50 grams of protein at every meal, which is 3 to 5 meals a day, depending on the size of the client and the calorie allotment. So really, really simple. This is a real big bang habit that someone can use because for most problems people are experiencing, adding a portion of protein at every meal will improve that. The next one is have plants at every meal. Okay, because plants are really good for you. What a surprise. They're nutrient dense, providing vitamins, minerals, fiber, antioxidants, and they support overall health and digestion, lower in calories, help keep you full, improve blood sugar, make people feel better in every which way. So our general recommendation is 2 serves of fruit a day and looking at 5 serves of vegetables a day. And a serve of vegetable does not mean like one little portion. It's about a cup for most things. So with some clients, what we'll do after a period of time is we will track these if they're very, very serious on body composition. If they're not, I don't ever actually track them. I want to use them in the diet as a concept called a constant. So they're constantly in your diet all the time, which will make sure that you get the most out of them. And we don't have to worry about manipulating them for your macros. We can just actually manipulate things like carbohydrate itself. Now, the next one is the low glycemic index, high fiber carbs. These are to help control blood sugar, keep people full the whole time, maintain high level energy, and also improve digestion. So really simple, looking at going from white bread to whole grains, from white pasta to sweet potato, quinoa. The list is there. It's a really easy thing to do. And by doing that, you're going to give your clients more health outcomes. This doesn't mean that high glycemic index foods are bad. High glycemic index foods have their use in a diet and can be very beneficial for a number of different things. But for the vast majority of general population, level 1 and 2 clients, low glycemic index, high fiber foods are going to have a bigger bang for the buck for keeping them healthy, for helping them lose weight, improve their health outcomes, because they're not so worried about improving their performance in the gym. Now, the next one we want to do is a habit is minimize trans and saturated fats, which is those fats found in processed food, fried foods, and certain animal products. These increase risk of heart disease, raise cholesterol, and increase inflammation. By reducing these, what we generally find is we do a couple of things. We see weight loss because these foods are often very high calorie. They're attached to sugar a lot of the time. So a donut is a perfect example of this, or deep fried chips. And if we replace these with healthy fats, we still get all the health outcomes of having a decent amount of fat in the diet. We get a better hormonal profile, we get better skin, and people generally feel a whole lot better. So any kind of reduction in trans fats as a daily habit is a really good thing. Now, if a client has a free meal throughout the week, or 1 or 2, whatever number you've recommended based on their particular outcomes, it doesn't matter if they have trans fat in there. The body is more than capable of taking that, digesting it, eliminating that. It's not a it's not a sporadic intake of these that's problematic. It's chronic intake that is always a problem. And that philosophy applies to pretty much everything across the board in nutrition. A little bit of alcohol every now and then won't kill you, but alcohol every day is certainly very, very bad for you. That's one of the key things that we want to get across to our clients, that these things can still be included. It's just they shouldn't be an everyday thing. Now, the next habit that's really useful is drink calorie-free beverages. Now, the reason we do this is we want to improve hydration. We want to also drop down blood sugar for a lot of people because the calories in these beverages are generally from high fructose corn syrup or sugar. So what's happening is they're not necessarily bad; they're just empty calories that really aren't helping the person out. And the sugar-free sources taste just as good as the sugar-filled ones, so you may as well do that. Hydration itself is a very important topic. There's one thing to remember with hydration: you can only hydrate up to the point of actually being hydrated. Any more than that will not lead to a higher level of hydration. So winning there, this is a great way to do that. Now, how do we implement these? Really simple. We start slow, one habit at a time. Begin with encourage clients to eat protein at one meal every day for a week before adding in more plant-based foods, for example. So if someone's having breakfast and their breakfast is Cocoa Pops, really simple, right? What we could do is simply add in a portion of chocolate protein powder to that. And they could actually put that in their milk with their Cocoa Pops, and that will actually improve the overall nutritional quality of that meal. Now, for a lot of people, that sounds crazy, but we're looking at small improvements rather than massive improvements there, okay? Then you could add in like a piece of fruit with that meal as well, which will increase the fiber, the antioxidant intake, and then you could look at taking that Cocoa Pop to a low glycemic, high fiber carbohydrate like oatmeal, for example. So from there, you've taken someone who's eating Cocoa Pops to then eating someone that's having whey protein and oats with a piece of fruit. A massive change in the quality of a diet, but you can do it in a slow and gradual way. Now from there, second thing is always lead by example. People always follow what you do more than what you say. So demonstrate these habits yourself, take photos of your food, put it up in your story, use it as your behind the scenes. It can be part of your marketing as well, and you can actually show people that food can actually taste pretty good and be healthy at the same time. From there, educate your clients on why it is important, not just the how, okay, to do it, but why it's important, because what you want to do is you want to empower people to make better choices. A sign of success of a good personal trainer is that when the client leaves, because of whatever reason, let's just say it's an amicable reason, they've moved overseas or something, the client maintains the level of results they got and can do better. It means that you've educated the client to actually do what they need to do to get outcomes, so you've succeeded. The next one is track progress. So what you can do when you track progress is you can see how effective that habit has been. For a lot of clients who start to introduce protein to every single meal, what happens is their gym performance skyrockets. So they feel heaps better. They start to actually notice that their cognition has improved. They've got more focus, more energy throughout the day. Bring that up and demonstrate it to them, because then it's going to reinforce that that habit is something that's good for them. And then finally, give simple suggestions. A lot of coaches try and overcomplicate this by trying to give the optimal suggestion right now for the client. I started off by changing Cocoa Pops to adding a chocolate protein powder to it. Whereas most trainers would go, all right, cool, you need an egg white omelet with spinach, tomato, and some avocado on the side with some sourdough toast. The avocado and egg and that meal is a healthier meal. It is a better meal if we're looking at the objective metrics of that and nutritional quality. But for a client to jump from Cocoa Pops to that is a huge jump. So they're not going to be able to do it. So keep it simple, make it achievable for the client, and they will be much happier for that. So we're going to have a couple of changes here with these. Now, the first one is going to be resistance to change. Clients are going to feel overwhelmed by adopting several new habits at once, and that's what they're generally going to expect to do. So the solution is one habit per week to build on as the client feels more comfortable. Now, what also happens here is when people actually start to see some success, they can change more than one habit at a time because they've got this health halo effect going on. They feel empowered. They've got some self-efficacy, so they can actually push forward. So start small, because that rolling stone is going to gather a whole lot of momentum for that particular client. Now, the next one is emotional eating. A lot of clients are going to struggle with emotional or mindless eating, which is going to interfere with their habits. So doing the food journal is our first port of call for dealing with that. So if a client is starting to implement these habits but still doing some emotional eating, I wouldn't focus on it straight away. I would give a little bit longer for those habits to really be locked in. And then from there, what you can do is start to address the emotional eating over time. People will start to see how it affects their results. And you can use one of the coaching tools that we use called Specific Impact Change Continue, which we're going to go on a little bit later on in the course, to actually help people move past emotional eating. And the last one is lack of time. So a lot of clients need time-saving tips such as meal prepping, batch cooking, or using a slow cooker, basically our job is to predict the problems that our clients are going to have and preemptively build the solutions so we can give it for a client when they come up. So one example of this will be clients who go out for work functions for food. They're going to eat high calorie foods at these things. It's the only option to have. Alcohol is probably going to be consumed because that's the nature of the event. For us, teaching a client about something like protein-spared modified fasting can be a fantastic tool to allow them to stick to their diet and still enjoy the social situation. So preemptively predicting these problems and solving them is going to put you really ahead of the pack as a nutrition coach with your client. So what we can do with this is with our clients, what we can tell them to expect are these things: improved energy levels due to stable blood sugar, better digestion, reduced bloating due to the fiber in plants, better weight management, and longer-term progress. So what we want to do is look for these things, show them to our clients as they happen, and then reinforce the good work they've done. What that's going to do is create self-efficacy and confidence in the process, and they will go much further from that, which is why habits are probably the best thing for every coach to start with their clients.